my channel and welcome back to Bookmas. Today we are going to be going over my top 10 reads of the year. If you can see some of the sprayed edges and you recognize them, that gives you a little bit of a hint into what we are about to go over today. But without further ado, we're just going to jump right into these. So these are going to be in no particular order because I'm simply incapable of doing that. It's almost incapable of picking this top 10 list. Like, it's just really hard to narrow down the favorites from the year, and sometimes your mood changes and one might shift in there that isn't necessarily normally in there. So like, very subject to change, I would argue. Not all of them. There are some that like definitely set in stone in this top 10. Some that, yeah, like I said, maybe a little bit interchangeable. Not because I don't love them, just because I'm an indecisive person at heart. So anyway, yeah. All that to say, not going to be in a particular order. We're just going to jump right in. If you've been watching my videos throughout the year, you are probably going to be able to guess a decent amount of these, and I apologize for that, but also it means if you haven't read them yet, like, what are you doing? There's a reason that I keep talking about them. First up, we have the Mind F series. I feel like some of these books I'm very late to the game on, and this is definitely one of them. This is technically like four or five little novellas all put into one. It ends up being only like 500 pages, 400, 600 pages. Okay, so a little bit longer, but when it's like 5 books put together, you're like, oh, that might be a lot. It's not. It's really, really quite doable. And this is following a female serial killer who starts dating an FBI agent that is actually looking into some of the cases that link back to her. And everybody uses that as like the reason to read this. They're like, oh, like, the dark romance of it all and that connection, and oh, it's gonna be so like on the edge of your seat. How is she doing this? Yes, the romance is fun. That's a fun little aspect to it. But at its core, this book is very much like supporting women's wrongs and the sort of female rage of it all. You start finding out piece by piece why she is killing all of these men and what connection it has to her past. And the way that the author unveils all of this is so well done. It's all paced extremely well. I didn't feel like I was missing information longer than I needed to. I just couldn't believe the final reveal for what had happened. Absolutely horrific, like really dark stuff in here. That's primarily why it's labeled as a dark romance. So definitely know that going in. It's horrific, it's sad, deeply depressing, but the way that the story is reeled is incredible, and the way that you start rooting for the heroine in here is also extremely incredible, because you wouldn't expect that given the premise of the story, but like the way that she works everything out to sort of make her plans come to fruition, absolutely incredible. So yeah, definitely would recommend reading this. This is on my god tier list. Then a recent finish, we have Alchemized. I feel like nobody should be surprised by this because Manacled was one of my god tier books, still is one of my god tier books. This is now one of my god tier books. They are two separate things, and you do not need to read one to read the other. Obviously, Manacled is a fan fiction. It's going to be a lot harder for you guys to find that at this point without illegally downloading it, which don't do that. It ruins the fan fiction community and everything. So just read this. Read this and you're going to get sucked into a completely immersive and beautiful, tragic new world that Senlin Yu creates. This is following a healer after the war, and the wrong side wins the war. It's not the side that everybody would have wanted to win, expected to win, and she now no longer has her memories. Everybody wants her to get her memories back because they think that she's hiding something really important. They think the process through which she's been able to hide these memories is really important. So she is given over to the High Reeve, and he is an alchemist with a lot of power, and he is supposed to be working with her, not really working with her, but forcing her to find these memories and sort of unveil what they can hold for him and for his side of the war effort. I think that the new magic system in here, the way that alchemy works, is stunning. It's beautiful. I loved it so much. The aspects of religion and the way that that plays into the war and the choices that these people make. And then the actual absolutely heartbreaking love story that's in here is beautiful and devastating. It's not like a romance. These two do not fall in love in a traditional way. It is a love story built around despair and heartbreak and maybe a little bit of like, there's no one else that could ever possibly get me the way that you do in my twisted, screwed up way. But it's beautiful for all of those reasons. So it's 1,000 pages. She's big, but she's so worth it. Then number 3, still in no particular order, we have Till Death. I've definitely talked about this a lot on this channel. Sorry, not really. I've listened to the audiobook for this twice in 1 year. I barely find time to do rereads after like a year has gone by, let alone twice within the first, I believe, 6 months of the year. I loved it that much. This is following a young woman who is sort of forced into this arranged marriage with somebody. And she ends up accidentally marrying the wrong person. And the way that that comes together is very, very comical. So she's now bound in marriage to this man who is actually bound sort of in servitude to a magical burlesque show. And this is a huge problem because the young woman is actually Death's maiden. In this world, there was a Death's maiden and then there was a Life maiden. The Life maiden has not been seen for a very, very long time. Death's maiden is the only one that can really kill anybody before they reach, I believe, 200 years. And as such, everybody's terrified of her because she has no control over who she's told to go kill, and she also can't resist that once she's told to do that. So she is trying to find a way to get her out of this debt, out of this servitude to death, and also to find the Life maiden because she thinks it's going to help this world that she lives in that's really quite sad and depressing. Her new husband also wants to find Life's maiden, and they kind of form this tenuous relationship outside of this forced marriage to find the maiden together. There is a lot of found family in here. The burlesque show is such a unique, captivating setting, and the true enemies to lovers that is throughout this story, like the tension that gets built up and the angst and the yearning. Oh, like it's so well done. Like you could cut the tension with a knife. Definitely the epitome of that. And the audiobook is immaculate. It has some musical refrains throughout it that I love. The voice that they use for the main male character, it just like, if you're gonna read this and you like audiobooks, please give the audiobook a try. I think you will love it so much. Then we have an indie book that I read near the end of the year, definitely the second half of the year, and that's Wings of Ash and Flame. I love when a good indie book just comes out of nowhere and just smacks you across the head and it's like, hey, I deserve to be traditionally published. I'm absolutely incredible. I am better than some of the books that are traditionally published. And I believe that this and some of the other ones that are on this list that were indie could fit the bill for that one. I think this one, you're definitely gonna have to see where the series goes, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised by this. Very strong Zodiac Academy and Fourth Wing vibes. So if you enjoy that, I think that you're really going to enjoy this series. This follows a young woman who is in prison and she is given this opportunity to leave if she agrees to go to this magical fae academy. The problem is she has no powers. Absolutely none, and everybody at this Fae Academy obviously does, and this is like one of the most elite ones that you can go to. She's like, well, how do you expect me to survive all of the different trials and everything that's at this academy without powers? They're like, that's a you problem. We're just giving you this chance. So she agrees. She has no idea why. Obviously, she realizes there's probably an ulterior motive in there, but it's better than staying in this death prison that she has found herself in. So now she's in the middle of this Fae Academy with a bunch of people that don't think that she deserves to be there because she can't participate in anything, really, because she's human, has no powers. There's magical creatures that some of the more prestigious Fae can bond with. It's only certain families that have that ability anymore. And there's so many different things in here. Like the enemies to lovers, not even lovers, just like the enemies that are in here that she comes across, and the way that she's trying to work her way through this academy without any of these powers, the absolute betrayal at the end of this book. Like, yeah, I wanted to throw it across the room at the end of this, I will admit, but I cannot wait until the next book. Like, really, like I said, very, very, very pleasantly surprised by this. Then we have Binding 13. And this is one of the only romance books in this stack. I think it might be the only one. And I'll be honest, it's really hard for me to pick which book out of the series is my favorite. It is either Binding 13, Keeping 13, or Taming 7. I appreciate Joe and Eve's story, but it's really, really hard to read. And it's really, really hard to see Aoife and the way that she just unconditionally supports Joey and be like, at some point you need to, like, support yourself and realize that this relationship might not be supportive for you. But then you're like, well, he's your ride or die. Like, you have to stay with him. Really hard to do that. But anyway, complete tangent there. This series is a God tier series for me and totally just unexpected. It follows high schoolers in Ireland. Some of them are rugby players. You would just never expect to get this emotionally invested and connected to characters like this that don't exist. Don't exist. And it's really hard to remind yourself of that when you're reading through this and you see all of the trauma and hard times that some of these characters go through and the way that the people in their lives, the friends that they've managed to make at Toman College, help put them back together and help get them on their feet and sort of realize that there is more to life than the terrible things that they have gone through, that they've suffered, and that there's healing and rehabilitation that's available for them. It's just, it's beautiful and it's moving and it's really truly just a slice of humanity that's shown in here that you don't get to see in a lot of books. It shows both sides of the coin, the suffering and the happiness and the joy and the love and the people that are willing to finally extend a hand and show it. So moving and captivating, and I love this so much. This one specifically follows Johnny and Shannon. Shannon has been like horribly bullied at her school, so her family finally decides to send her to Toman College. It's a private not boarding school, but like a private school. Actually, I think you can live there. Take that back. She doesn't. No, can you stay there? That really doesn't matter. She's going to Toman College, and she meets Johnny through a rather comical series of events. And he just can't help this instant connection that he feels with her and just this overwhelming urge to kind of protect her and look after her. But he is really focused on rugby. That's his main priority in life. Like, he wants to become a professional rugby player and he's trying to fight all of these feelings that he has. And it's just, it's cute, it's wholesome, it's kind of funny, kind of really heartbreaking and tragic. So yeah, like lots of feels when you read these books. Then we have the third book in the Zodiac Academy series. I've only read the first 3, but this is my favorite of the year so far that I've managed to get to. I took a little break to start reading the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac Academy series. A lot of people say that's a good reading order. Once you read those 5 books, you go back into the Zodiac Academy world. I'm so ready to be back in this world. The characters in here and just the drama, and a lot of people say that these books are trashy, that they're not well written, that they're just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, they're a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, the writing isn't what you'd find in like a serious piece of literature that you study in school. That's okay. Sometimes it's just fun to have an outrageous plot that still somewhat kind of makes sense with characters that are messy and do stupid things, but you kind of can't help rooting for them, and broody love interests that, yeah, maybe they're a little bit like forbidden, but that kind of makes it a little bit more fun. I love this series. I love the series, and this one really popped off the ending of this. The jaw on the floor moment ending for this book, and I heard that they just keep getting better as the series goes on. And if you don't know what the series is about, this is about 2 twin sisters that are living in the human world, and they find out that a fae world exists, but this fae world is more like a modern fae world where they have cell phones and regular school and cars and fae book instead of Facebook, which is cringy. Like, it has those little cringy elements, but they're kind of fun too. It's not like the typical fae world that are in a lot of other fantasies. And they are told that they are actually the daughters of the 2 ruling individuals, couple. Their parents were like the rulers of this realm. I don't know why that was so hard for me to spit out. And they had died. Nobody knew where these twins were. They thought that they perhaps were dead too. And they are told that they could go to Zodiac Academy, and if they learn at Zodiac Academy and graduate and come into their own power, they can get this inheritance. They could possibly become the rulers again. And once they're there, they realize a lot of the people don't want them to be rulers again. There is a like sort of circle of families, and they all have heirs, and they're called the heirs, and they're expected to take over once their parents are gone. There's, I think, 4 of them. Yeah, I think there's 4 of them. And these boys are mean. They are brutal to these girls. Like, bully trope, really, really hard in these books. Definitely go into it not knowing that if that's something that you don't enjoy. But it's fun seeing them come into their own at this school and sort of hold their own against these terrible boys that they also can't maybe help but have a little bit of a connection with. Like, it's just fun and a good time. So yeah, I really, really am loving this series. Then we have the Red Rising series. I actually meant to pick up Golden Sun, and I grabbed this instead. So, yeah. But I love this series. I tore through the first 3 books. I am not a huge sci-fi person, or at least I didn't think I was, and then I read this. And then I read Golden Sun. And then I read Morning Star, and I'm like, wow, these just keep getting better and better. And I've definitely heard some people say, oh, it's like Hunger Games in space. I would agree with that. The first book... Birdie, what are we doing? The first book definitely gives those vibes. It follows Darrow, who is a red living on Mars. And in this world, everybody is ranked by color. The Reds are one of the lowest that you can get in this world, the lowest faction. And they've been told that they need to live underground in Mars and mine Mars so that it becomes habitable for other people. And Darrow finds out that they've actually been being lied to for a really long time, and that they are pretty much just slaves to the Golds. And I don't know how much I could say without giving stuff away. He gets connected with this group of people that allows him to start trying to infiltrate the Golds and become one of them. So he goes to their academy that the Golds are sent to sort of decide where they belong in their own hierarchy within the Golds. And that's the element that kind of starts seeming very Hunger Games-esque. They are in this war college that they're just fighting each other in order to graduate. Like, it actually goes really off the rails for a school, but it's like not super heavy on the school element. It's a lot of just battle strategy and war against each other. The politics and the way that war functions in here, it's brutal reading it. And it gets even more brutal in the next books. Like I said, I think my favorite out of the series is definitely Golden Sun. That one has so many twists and really just is a nail-biting one, because there's something in there that you're like, I think this is gonna happen, I think this is gonna happen, I think this, and then you're like, maybe it's not, maybe it is. I don't, like, it had that element in it the entire time, and that really just had me so tense and anxious throughout the entire book. But there's also moments of comedic relief. Like, these books, they're just masterfully written. I've seen a lot of people say that they don't really enjoy the first one, and then they go on to read the next 2 and have a complete perspective shift on the series. I loved the first one, so maybe I'm just in the minority on that, but I really, really love this series. The audiobooks are fantastic. If you don't know if you could get into a sci-fi book, maybe try the audio, and I think that you would actually really, really love it. It might surprise you. So yeah, Golden Sun is definitely my favorite in this series, but like as a whole, the entire series is in my top 10. I'm nothing if not a cheater. I will put an entire series all together so that I can include all of it in my top 10. Only 3 more. Next up we have Sunrise on the Reaping. This book, you want to talk about pain, heartbreak, sorrow, it's this book. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, and this follows Haymitch's story. And because you know Haymitch survives, and in the original trilogy, you know that that means all of the people that you were watching him interact with in his own games aren't going to make it. And that alone makes this devastating, because you feel these connections and you start getting attached to these characters yourself, and you're like, I know that something absolutely terrible, horrific is going to happen to you, and there is nothing I can do about it, but I'm going to get connected to you anyway. And that in and of itself sucks a lot. It does. And then seeing the heartbreak that he has to go through outside of the games, seeing the way that his story connects to the trilogy and some of the key players in the trilogy, and the overall plot in those 3 books to kind of overtake the capital is insane. Like this, it shows like laying the groundwork and how revolutions don't just happen as quickly as you would think they did from the first trilogy. It's masterfully written, masterfully connected to the original trilogy. Like the world that Suzanne Collins creates in order to be able to go back and connect these books to them without feeling gimmicky is insane. I know a lot of people think, oh, this book's kind of fan service, there's a lot of cameos from characters, and that doesn't really make sense. It does. Haymitch would have to have had connections to people that were connected to this original trilogy because he's from their district and because of the timing of it. And it just, that's a whole other rant that I don't need to get into. But yeah, this book ripped my heart out. I cried a couple times while reading that one. Then, because like I said, I like to cheat and put multiple books from one series on my list, we have the One Dark Window duology. This is gothic fantasy at its finest. It has such a unique, vibrant, magical system, and it's also eerie and creepy and dark. It's in this world where there's tarot cards, and if you tap on the card, you get this power that it holds, but it also takes something from you. Everything in this world has a price for magic, and the more powerful the cards, the less amount there is. So some cards have 2, some have 3, there's one that only has 1. And the eerie, creepy vibe of this comes from the world around them, where if you go outside, if you go into the woods, there's this mist, this fog that will envelop you and take over, and it causes people to get sick and to lose their minds. And some people in this world are trying to find all of these tarot cards because they believe that it will put an end to the mist, put an end to the fog. The creativity that had to go into creating this world, this duology, is insane. It's insane. I've never seen a magic system like this. And then on top of that, the writing, specifically the way that you just feel kind of like uncomfortable reading this, kind of like you're walking down a dark street at night that's layered in fog. Like you feel that while you're reading this, and it's incredible. Like that's the only way that I can describe it. Rachel Gillig is probably going to be the queen of gothic fantasy for me. I love this book. I actually just finished The Night and the Moth recently, and that's one that like is interchangeable for this top 10. Like really went back and forth on putting that in here or putting one of the other ones in here. I think I just need to see the second book for Night and the Moth, but that one also super unique magic and very creepy gothic vibes that like just are very tangible. Anyway, that's me kind of cheating and throwing in a caveat in there to one that maybe could have been on this list depending on the day. Anyway, last book we have Air of Illusion. I've definitely talked about this a lot, and I know I have. This is the other indie book that I was referencing when I said they like smack you over the head and you're like, this needs to be traditionally published. Thankfully, it is now traditionally published. I forget when it's being released. I think maybe sometime next year. The ARCs have been going out. They're stunning. I have begged quite a few people through email to get one, and I'm not too proud to admit that. I'm shameless when it came to trying to get that ARC. It's beautiful. Anyway, this has been tried, picked up, and I couldn't be more happy for the author. I was obsessed when I read this. This is about a woman named Ivy who is actually a wraith. I've never read a fantasy book with a wraith in it before, so that alone had me hooked and curious about how her powers function. She is indebted to the king, and in this servitude to him, he actually has a collar around her throat, and people refer to her as the king's pet. And she goes out and she does his bidding. She's his assassin. If she doesn't, the collar strangles her. So yeah, not a great situation that she has found herself in. She has heard that there is this weapon that she could go find that might be able to get her out of this servitude to the king so that she can finally be free and stop killing people because she doesn't really want to. Enter Death's Reaper. And he is broody and mysterious and dark, and she does not like him. She does not like him. He is there to find this same thing that she is. She's like, no, it's mine. I'm getting my freedom. He's like, well, I need this from my master. So they agree to form a tenuous alliance in order to try to find this weapon. this is another one. True enemies to lovers. Angst, yearning, tension, absolutely insane. The way that the end of this just completely goes off the rails, loved it. Masterfully done. Like so many different twists in here that you would just not see coming. The world is really vibrant and unique, and like I said, the fact that she's a wraith, the powers that she has is something that I haven't seen before, and I've had to resist picking this book up to reread it multiple times throughout the year because I just have so many other books that I'm like, I can't. But God, I really want to. I cannot wait for the second book in this to come out. So definitely give this a shot if you haven't. I think it's available on Kindle Unlimited still. So those are my top 10 for the year. Like I said, there's a couple like honorable mentions, like Night and the Moth, that maybe could have been on this if it had been a different day and my brain had just shifted just a little bit on what I was preferring. But those are the top reads of the year that I just can't get out of my head, that I'm always going to be insufferable about, that I'm always going to talk about. A lot of my God tier books are on that list because I found a lot of my God tier books this year, which was fantastic. Like a wonderful reading year that I wouldn't have expected. So yeah, if you haven't read any of those, please go give them a shot. They're insane. If you haven't noticed by my rambling, I could continue rambling about them, but I don't think anybody really wants that at this point. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to say thank you for watching this video, for being here throughout Bookmas, and I will see you in another 2 days. Bye.